as it's coming to Halloween, I thought I'd do something with a ghostly theme. Hi, this is Anna from Post Me a Book. And I actually found a book in our house library, which I have never read. I knew it had been that it sat on the shelf, and I knew exactly where on the shelf it sat because I had been looking in that shelf not so long ago. And I thought, yeah, let me actually pick up this book and read it. It's called, let's see, Collected Ghost Stories by M.R. James. Now, I have no idea when I bought this book, where I bought it from, but it must have been some time when I was still in England anyway. So I must have had it quite a while. Because I see even the pages are browned, suggesting that I've had it a long time. I haven't written in it. Sometimes I write my name in books and I date them, but I haven't written anything in this book. I have to say I know nothing, or now I know a little bit about the author just because I read up on him in the book. But otherwise, I knew nothing about this author at all. But reading what they say here, at the first page, the introduction, it says, Michael Sadler described Mr. James as the best ghost story writer England has ever produced. Few would dispute this, and certainly he remains the best known and most widely read teller of supernatural tales. And among the English language ghost story writers, his only rival for sustained conviction in the genre is the Irish author Sheridan Le Fanu, many of whose stories were collected by James and published in one volume in 1923 as Madame Crow's Ghost and Other Tales of Mystery. And then it tells us a little bit about the author. It says, Montague Rhodes James was born in 1862, died in 1936, and he was the son of an East Anglican clergyman. He was born near Bury St Edmunds, which I'm not sure if it's Cambridgeshire. He was educated at Eton at King's College, Cambridge. Let's see if anything else is. M.R. James told many of these stories to his friends, to the pupils of the King's College Choir School. Perhaps the best way to read them is to imagine oneself as part of a small gathering in the study of the old Provost Lodge at King's College, Cambridge. There on a winter's evening with no lights save a glowing light and a candle, set in each arm of a large Victorian chair, sits an ample and benign scholar with gold-rimmed spectacles, quietly recounting tales of an unimaginable horror. So it is actually sounding quite ghostly. I actually read one of the stories just to get me started, and because somewhere in the book it said that the ash tree, which is the story I read, was a very good one. And I do have to admit, actually, I'm not sure that I will be terrified with reading the ash tree, but I can see why it certainly can be described as a chilling horror. He certainly manages to give that feel of dark nights, big country house, and a person living there on his own, perhaps at dark at night, and he's seeing something happening in the tree not far from his bedroom window, a woman climbing up the tree. Then he sees her scuttling, or something scuttling away. So he then tells people, I can't quite remember, or rather I'm not quite sure what fully happens in this story, but it's about it starts off with a woman who is a known witch. This was in the 17th century, from what the storyteller says, the 17th century, and this was a time when they were still killing women for being witches, hanging them and burning them. And there was this man who lived in a country house, and he saw this woman climbing up a tree not far from his bedroom window. So this must either have been outside of his own grounds or quite near his own, or within his own grounds. And because it also says that he could see her mumbling away to herself in a dark or some full moon night. And then he goes out to try and catch her. But when he gets there, she's already gone, but all he can see is something scuttling away in the grass. And he gives chase, but he never quite sees what it is. So then he tells people about this happening, or this seeing, this sighting. And this woman is condemned as a witch. That she was a known witch, but she was supposedly a benevolent witch, so nobody really paid much attention to her. But because of what he said, she was then hanged. but it seems that before she died, she said some words like, there will be guests, meaning that there will be guests at his country house. So that's where the story then starts getting a bit creepy and a bit scary, and you don't want to be reading this in the dark all on your own. Perhaps you do, with a candle to give you the right feeling, but I guess that's when you really do start thinking, okay, things are gonna happen. And things do happen. I did actually read the story to the end, I think. Yes, I did. It's not a very long story, but it actually does give you that feeling of being a horror, a witchly dark night when she's climbing up in the tree, and you can see her muttering away to herself and mumbling, and yeah, kind of scary. I'm not so sure that this will be considered really scary now, because so many things happen. Now we've had the Poltergeist and we've had Ring, or what is it called? All those horror stories, all those horror films, I mean, anyway. I haven't read very many horror stories. I can't really say whether I'll be scared by reading horror stories. Tried Stephen King books, but they don't work for me. So I haven't, since I've tried Stephen King as a horror and it didn't work for me, I haven't tried. So this is going to be interesting to see whether, not just because to see whether it is scary, but to see whether you get that kind of atmosphere. Because obviously this was written a long time ago. So I guess in its days, it certainly would be considered scary as compared to now, I mean. So I'm looking quite forward to it. He has written a lot of stories. They're not very long, and I've counted them, and there are about 24 stories in this book. So that's a lot of stories, because it's not it looks like a thick book, but the print is quite big. So it's not, in essence, it doesn't become that many. But there's stories, they have a lot of fun titles, some of them. Albeit they could be scary. They have, I do like the titles. There's one, his very last one in this one is called Stories I Tried to Write. And I don't know whether he's joking by saying it's actually stories that I tried to write, or whether it's just a scary story that's called Stories I Tried to Write. So that's going to be quite interesting to read. And then there was another one called, which I thought was also another fun title for a story. There was A Man Dwelt by a Churchyard. That I thought was quite good. And let's see, Wailing Well. That could be fun, The Wailing Well. There was another that I thought was quite a fun one. The Story of a Disappearance and an Appearance. The Haunted Doll's House. So he's got title. Oh, he's also got number 13. I think I'll read number 13 after. Or I'll read number 13 next, because it actually comes after the ash tree anyway. And of course, you've got to read number 13 on us as a Halloween story. So that's going to be the next one in this book. But otherwise, that's all I had to say for today. I was just happy that I actually found a book that I could read for Halloween, because I've never actually read a book just out of a season's theme. So, and it's also given me a good excuse to read this book. But thank you for watching. So until next time, bye-bye.